All right. Well, welcome back for Hour 2. 888-727-BECK is our phone number. I mean, the feel of the show this hour was different, certainly. And I think that's a natural response to the environment right now. I think I don't know if you're feeling the same way, Pat, but I mean, I know you don't want to hear Barack Obama's voice.
Oh, yeah.
I find myself struggling to be interested in any news story right now.
It's hard. Well, for one thing, it's a Christmas season. For another thing, we just got our butts kicked. And that was after 4 or maybe even 5 years of constantly beating our heads against the wall.
Can I interrupt your really fascinating and delightful Obama talk?
With your delightful, condescending attitude? Yes, sure. Please, go ahead.
Good.
Go ahead.
Jeffy's trying to sell me on this Michikaku thing.
Yeah.
Isn't that the Japanese anime?
No.
Isn't that the little, like, the Michikaku thing? They're like little, maybe they're Japanese toys that you get from, I don't know, Sonic or something.
I want to be clear. This was the interruption.
Yeah, that was the one thing that could not wait one second
until we got to the Michikaku tease, which is coming up here in a second.
I have to get. I have to get away.
You're
from
talking
Barack
about
Obama.
I mean, it was a cute Pokemon reference. But I'm not sure it really needed to go there.
So, I just want to make sure I understand. You interrupted what we were talking about for a Pokemon reference while you were standing behind Jeffy so no one could see you.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
by the way, when you're behind Jeffy, no one can see you.
I wasn't technically behind Jeffy. When you're anywhere near Jeffy, you're behind Jeffy.
I'm glad it's all turned into Jeffy bashing, though. I am glad it ended there. So I guess we can give you a little bit of a pass.
So he's Michikaku is the guy who's saying that the solar flares are coming?
Well, he's one of them. There's a bunch of physicists who are saying that this solar maximum, which is a giant solar event, and we just had, I think, 3 over the weekend. And if you've seen the video of them, they're massive. They're massive explosions from the sun. And if one of those hits us directly, we're toast. It knocks out.
No. Wait. Let's say this right. Yeah. We're not toast. We just, all of our it's not like the world is going to end.
Well, it's pretty close because our satellites.
Refrigeration ends.
Yes. Satellites end. GPS ends.
Air conditioning ends.
Cell phones
Let's
end.
just forget
electricity.
The cell phones and the GPS. Air conditioning and refrigeration ends.
Yes.
I don't have food. I don't have cold anything. I don't have steak anymore unless I get to go out and kill the cow. And I have to do it and then get back in the house and be all hot and sweaty.
And here's the pièce de résistance. Nuclear power plants will probably melt down all over the planet. It's just a fun little prediction there from Michikaku.
Now let me just say this. Wasn't Michikaku, isn't that Japanese anime thing?
Oh my God, that's a great Pokemon reference. So glad you brought that up at the perfect time.
Man, that is great.
Don't you just want to live in that world where you had Pokemon references? They do distract you. Anything can distract you. Good God, now we're talking about nuclear power plants melting down.
Yeah. That's we'd rather talk about that than the election, that's for sure.
And here's the thing. There's a fix on this to prevent it from happening. If we get hit directly by a solar flare, we can fix it for less than $1 per American.
Okay, how could it possibly get any worse? Here we are, Thanksgiving, just trying to pay attention. I log on occasionally to check the news just to make sure that, the world is still spinning. Out of control, but still spinning. And my wife says, I thought you said you weren't going to check the news. I said, I just have to see, does Israel still exist today? Has the stock market melted down around the world? Is Europe, have the stormtroopers come in yet into Greece? I just want to see. Is the president currently flying a drone over everyone's house who ever went to a Tea Party meeting or had tea? I just want to check. So I go online and I see the Solar Maximum event. And I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't have anything about Obama. I'm going to read that one. So I read about the solar maximum event. Now, this is, in case you don't know what the solar maximum event is, if Earth is struck by a large solar flare, some in the scientific community believe the planet will be hit with a widespread loss of power, air travel will be grounded, nuclear power plants will be crippled and without sufficient backup power, and dozens would melt down. Satellites would be disabled, causing serious loss of communication in all areas, military and civilian. Food and medicine would be in short supply because there's no refrigeration. There's no transportation. There's nothing.
So they're predicting food riots in that eventuality.
Yeah. Okay. But here's the good news. It could only last about 3 years. So after about 3 years, we might
be back up and running.
Bam! We got that thing. It's like Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Sandy times 1,000,000 for just 3 short years. And then you just piece civilization right back together again.
Well, Katrina cost $150 million in damage, or $150 billion. I mean, right? Wasn't it $150 billion for Katrina? They estimate that a maximum solar flare could cost us up to $2 trillion. That's a pretty significant.
$2 trillion.
Okay, what is that among friends?
Whatever. Okay, so
that's a couple stimulus programs. What's the big deal?
Thank you.
Our power grid alone could be protected.
Yeah, for like what, $5 trillion?
No,
70 trillion, probably 70 trillion.
190 trillion bazillion gadrillion.
No, the power grid, cell phones, GPS, airline communications and guidance, and military could all be protected for $300 million. That was with an M, not a B. $300 million. Congress just said no.
Crazy. That is, if there's a 1 in a million chance, and there's a much bigger chance than that because it's hit us twice.
It's hit us twice. It hit us in 1859. We know of a time that it hit. It was called the Carrington event. The Carrington event was shocking. Why we don't know about this is beyond me. The Carrington event was in 1859 was so bad that the telegraph wires were literally set on fire. The solar flare, when it hit and hit the earth, it set all of the electrical wires, or not electrical, but all of the telegraph wires on fire.
Yeah, there were no electronics yet, but the telegraph system was really messed up. And telegraph operators had papers near the telegraph machine set on fire by this event. And it was such a powerful event that when they unplugged the telegraph system from the battery system, it still worked.
The electromagnetic pulse was so strong from the sun that even without battery power, you could still go click, 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 and it would still work.
It sent and received. That's phenomenal.
Okay. So the last time, that wasn't the last time it happened. That was the big time it happened in 1859 that we know of. And then it happened again in 1921. And it was not nearly as bad because the surge wasn't as big. But it did the same kind of things where it blew out systems. Now, we just had 3 major solar flares. The sun is going into another major period of activity. It's a cycle. What a surprise. Maybe it's solar warming. Maybe there's sun people that are making SUVs on the sun. But there's something that humans have done to cause the sun to go into this very destructive cycle. And it happens all the time. And it's going into a very active cycle again. We had 3 major solar flares happen this weekend. And we're not protecting. Didn't we just spend $1 trillion? $1 trillion for our infrastructure. We can't spend $300 million to, I don't know, put some, what are those things called? Faraday cages around the power grid. We couldn't do that. It would protect us from an electromagnetic pulse, which I'm concerned about, and every war gamer is concerned about. That if we would go to war, that you don't need to launch 100 missiles to destroy the United States. All you need to do is launch one in the right at the right altitude and explode it there, and it will cripple our power grid and all of our computers. All of our infrastructure is gone overnight. Well, the same thing with a solar flare. And for $300 million, you can protect it. And Congress said no. Why? Why would you possibly say no to that? That's chump change.
I mean, there could, I guess, disagreement on whether it would work. Maybe some people think that it's not the...
Among the scientists, they seem to think it's absolutely necessary. And
well, you can get down a bad road with this stuff, though, right? I mean, because this is the same argument the left will use for global warming. Well, even if we're not 100% sure it's going to happen and go out of control, it certainly is worth the precautionary principle tells us that it's worth.
But that's global warming,
and you're talking about spending $10 trillion as opposed to $300 million.
You're bankrupting the entire world on global warming, and global warming is a theory. This has happened before.
This is a fact. We've seen it happen, and it's going to happen
again.
This
is not
eventually.
Man-made or anything else. This is going to happen, and we are so vulnerable to it. And the Earth or the sun is starting to go into a very active stage. I mean, it's crazy that we're thinking about that. We're discussing it. We know what could. Tell me what you can do that's going to affect global warming, Stu.
Oh, I mean, there's no cost-effective way to even. I mean. Even if you could come up with...
This is $300 million, and all the best minds say they think this will work. I'm willing to give, I think this will work, a shot. I'm willing to do that.
Well, you can't... But the problem is, though, where would you get that money? It's not like you could find $300 million of waste in the government to get rid of. To pay for
we
that.
run such a tight ship. There's just no way.
$300 million is probably in somebody's desk in Washington.